Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon. This is Anthony Cosenza with the Orange and Black Insider Bengals podcast. Hope you are all doing well. Wanted to come at you once again. We started this tradition last Monday and we are going to continue it again this Monday as we go through the news and notes, not only with the Cincinnati Bengals, but also with the NFL and what else is going on around the league. Some of you may be just getting done with breakfast and heading into work. Some of you may be on your lunch break. Some of you may be ending your workday at this point right now. However, you may be listening to the show. We appreciate you tuning in. We're going to continue doing kind of this news week. At the start of the week, we're going to continue doing the news dump. For now, we're going to leave it really on only the YouTube channel, the Orange and Black Insider YouTube channel, and then all the stuff's going to be on cincyjungle.com. We haven't been putting it on the audio channels yet. If you really want it as part of the audio channel download, if you like to listen to the audio after you join us live, let us know and we can probably get that on there for you. But for now, we're leaving it on those two channels and going from there. We will be doing our usual Wednesday night. John Sheeran and myself will be doing our longer show on Wednesday night, and then we will be doing listener questions this Friday, especially with things really starting to ramp up this week. So good to see everybody's getting a lot of hoo-days and greetings from our live chats here. So good to see everybody. Thanks for joining us, and let's get started. I'm going to share a few things with you. We're going to kind of go over the cincyjungle.com news and notes, and then I found some other things on Twitter. Again, we'll keep this somewhat brief, just kind of talking about some things that are going on right now. You can see here DJ Reader is the cover boy here of this one. Let's start with kind of the big news, and you can see a lot of different things breaking down here, but the big news, it's not really listed on this page, but AJ Green signs his franchise tag tender. A lot of people wondered, including Mr. Florio over at Pro Football Talk, if you follow his Twitter account, there were, some rumblings about, would the Bengals pull the franchise tag offer they had for Green to try and save some money, and then, Green maybe hold out. Would Green hold out because he didn't get the long-term contract? None of that came to fruition. As expected, AJ Green, all class, signs his tender right when he can. And now he is a Cincinnati Bengal for 2020. He has also reiterated that he wants to remain a Bengal after 2020. He's excited to work with Joe Burrow. You can see here AJ Green thinks Joe Burrow in the offseason moves here. He likes where the team is heading, the direction the team is heading, especially with Joe Burrow now under center. So he was real tight with Andy Dalton. We know that, but AJ Green is going to be with the Bengals at least for this year. They cannot now, because of the franchise tag designation, and that window is now closed, to negotiate a long-term deal. So AJ Green is really only locked in for the Bengals to 2020. They can't renegotiate a new deal until after this season is done. So he is playing for another big payday, and hopefully one that's long-term. And again, he reiterated that he wants to remain a Cincinnati Bengal. This one was very interesting to me, and it's James Jones sees 15 touchdowns, and this is courtesy of the NFL Network. James Jones, former Packers and Raiders wide receiver, sees 15 touchdowns for AJ Green with Joe Burrow under center. The article I'm going to click on here, it's going to take you to the Bengals Wire. Good buddy Chris Rolling over there has the tweet and basically the quote from James Jones here. But 15 touchdowns, that's the first thing that comes to mind. I know the type of route runner and playmaker AJ Green is. And then you've seen all the special throws Joe Burrow can make. AJ's going to get a lot of targets. He's going to be the young fella's favorite weapon out there. It would be a dream, and it's a wide receiver gushing about another wide receiver. James Jones was a pretty good one himself, played with a lot of good quarterbacks in Green Bay. I think there's a little bit of an exaggeration there. AJ Green has never sniffed 15 touchdowns as a pro. He's had double digits, and he's been pretty solid for the most part in terms of statistics, especially when he's healthy. Usually in that 1,200 yard range, 8 to 10 touchdowns, that sort of thing. When he's healthy, 15 would be pretty outrageous. The one thing with it too that I wonder about is, James Jones talks about, the amount of targets AJ Green could see with Joe Burrow. I don't know specifically that AJ Green's going to. I'm kind of just curious how the Bengals will play it with AJ Green this year. Are they really going to throw a lot at him? Are they going to be a little bit delicate, a little bit of a pitch count because of the injuries, like what they did last year with Tyler Eifert? I don't know. I still think, he's arguably your best offensive weapon when he's healthy. So you got to get him the ball. It's just a matter of, you also want him healthy and playing an entire season to make sure that you're competitive throughout the rest of the season. We've seen what this offense becomes when he is not in the lineup. Now, obviously, guys like Joe Mixon and Tyler Boyd have stepped up in big ways, but without AJ Green, there is a lot of bite that is taken out of this Bengals offense. So they definitely want him healthy. They want him making plays for sure. But, we'll see what happens there. Bengals coach is hyped to have AJ Green mentoring T. Higgins. That's that's another USA Today article there from, I believe, the Bengals Wire. Look, that's kind of there's going to be a baton that gets passed, whether it's in 21 or maybe a couple years down the line if the Bengals end up getting a deal after this year done to keep Green in Cincinnati for the remainder of his career. There's going to be a bit of a baton being passed there to T. Higgins. Now, T. Higgins is a guy that, didn't time very well in the 40-yard dash when in these spring workouts. Granted, there wasn't a lot of opportunity for guys to show that, pro days and all that kind of stuff were canceled because of the COVID crisis. But, AJ Green mentoring T. Higgins and teaching him nuances of the game, that's always a good thing. And if you remember, when AJ Green was a young pro, he spent a lot of time with like Larry Fitzgerald. He spent some time with Calvin Johnson. So, he's kind of now taking that mantle and internally with the Bengals using it with T. Higgins. So you got to like where that's headed. And look, the Bengals know how to draft wide receivers. They know how to draft wide receivers that are productive within the first few rounds. You can go back to Chad Johnson was a second-round wide receiver. Hushmanzada was a seventh-round wide receiver. Sanu was a third-round wide receiver. Marvin Jones was a fifth-round wide receiver. They can develop these guys to become very productive players. And the Bengals do know how to draft running backs for the most part and do know how to draft wide receivers for the most part. So T. Higgins is probably going to be the next in line of a very talented receiving group that the Bengals seem to always boast. So, good news there. I'm sure as more practices and more games go on throughout the season, we'll be hearing more specific quotes from Higgins and Green on exactly what that mentorship looks like. But you gotta like that. I'm going to share a different screen with you now. I see a question there. Is AJ healthy? You would think so. There are some concerns, but AJ Green has posted some things to his Instagram and other things where it shows that he's pretty healthy. So, I think that for now he's pretty healthy. We'll see, if that changes once they get into training camp. I do think they are going to probably try and ease Green into things this offseason, whatever that may look like at training camp, preseason, that sort of thing. I think they're going to ease him back into things, make sure they don't have him get hurt on a fluke practice type of thing. They don't want that to happen again for sure. Speaking of AJ Green and Joe Mixon and others, let's talk about this. Last week when I joined you, we talked about some of the rookie ratings and some low ratings for the Bengals. Unfortunately, here you can see the top-rated Bengals, along with some very interesting what's happening news on the right of the Twitter feed there. You can see the top-rated Bengals in Madden 21. No one cracked 90. The highest-rated player on the team is Joe Mixon at 89. Geno Atkins is 88. We mentioned last week that Joe Burrow is 76. He is I said at the time, he is the highest rated. He's actually tied for second with Henry Ruggs at 76 overall, and I believe Chase Young is either a 78 or an 80. DJ Reader, he's an 84. Tyler Boyd, I think, was an 83. So, not real high ratings. And look, this probably seems like a slight to a lot of Bengals fans, and it's pretty irritating, but they are coming off a 2-14 season. Not a lot of things went right last year. And this is what happens when you're a team that has to prove yourself, even if it's something as arbitrary as a video game rating. That's just part and parcel of being a 2-14 team. That just comes with the territory. So those are some of the Madden rankings. You can find those at a number of different spots in terms of the entire roster. This is from the Cincinnati Bengals official account. You can also, I saw on Sports Illustrated's All Bengals, headed up by James Rapine. He has all of the ratings posted as well. So you can check that out there. Speaking also of DJ Reader, this is an interesting one here. DJ Reader, about 4 or 5 days ago, decided to join the Good Morning Football crew, and he was specifically talking with Nate Burleson. I'm not going to play the video. Hey, maybe we'll do that for our weekly show, and maybe it'll be our soundbite of the week. But you can see here, if you go on Twitter at Good Morning Football, this is from July 15th, I believe. So you have to go back a little bit. I'll put the link in the chats for you here, but talked about a lot of different things, and obviously his contract working out during this offseason. It's almost 8 minutes long. So you can get a lot of good stuff out of this interview here. Pretty entertaining one, but part of what he likes that was really eye-opening about this interview was part of what he likes about this is the fact that he went to Cincinnati because he saw what they were doing this offseason. And he saw some of the free agency moves. He saw that they were proactive, and he saw that they went after him specifically with a lot of fervor after he felt maybe Houston, his former team, should have gone after him with a little bit more of aggression. So here it's very interesting, especially when you hear all the things that get talked about with the Cincinnati Bengals and their lack of aggression. I'm guilty of talking about that personally, but their lack of aggression in free agency and DJ Reader, their prized defensive signing here, talking about how he felt it was the right move, not only for seeing what they have done in free agency to talk about, talking about Mackenzie Alexander and Trey Waynes himself, all of these, Von Bell, all of these guys they ended up signing. But I think, a lot of people saw what the Bengals had in their back pocket after free agency in the form of the draft, which is Joe Burrow. And they felt that, hey, there's a franchise quarterback on his way. They have other high picks. They're being active in free agency. I want part of this. And that's kind of what DJ Reader was saying in this interview. Pretty interesting stuff. So I would recommend that. I will put the link here for you all because it is you got to dig a little bit for it on Twitter. It is now posted in the live chats for you if you want to check that out. So again, it's about an 8-minute video, a little long, but still pretty good stuff there. Continuing on, let's talk a little bit about what's going on around the NFL. Before we do, let's take a step back for a second. The Bengals players, for the most part, Joe Burrow, etc., are set to be coming to Cincinnati and starting to get ready towards going to training camp practice by the middle of this week. Training camps across the NFL, there was a mandate by the NFL saying that training camps across the NFL are going to be all open across the league by July 28th. We'll see if that actually takes place. We think it will, but obviously with the COVID-19 pandemic and everything with that, you never know exactly what's going on there. So as of now, it seems as if all teams are set to open their training camps by July 28th, and hopefully that's the case. But Bengals players are set to arrive by the middle of this week. So that, you'll get your first look at some of these exciting rookies and new players that we've been talking about. DJ Reader, Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, you'll get your first look at them in Bengals uniforms. Still kind of transitioning a bit into NFL kind of around the league or NFL big picture news. Like I mentioned, the training camp date the league came out with that on that. There is no news as of yet. Now this is as of Monday morning, West Coast time. There is no news as of yet as to the new Washington name. They are changing it, but there has not been an official announcement, an unveiling of a logo or anything like that. I think what a lot of people, and myself included, what a lot of people have forgotten about is that if you change your team name and you change your mascot and all of that, it's not just, hey, here's the name. You want to unveil the name with possible new look uniforms, new look helmets. I don't know if they're going to, I would assume they're probably keeping the colors, but I don't know. And then there's also, a logo, a mascot, all of that. So my guess is, we thought we were going to hear something sometime early last week. We haven't really heard too much, at least not that I've seen so far. And I think that they're probably going to try and unveil all of that stuff at the same time that way. And they're probably scrambling to do so because the season is set to start pretty soon here. So no news on the Washington franchise and what they have changed the name to. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. The Players Association, kind of turning the page a little bit, saying you can see down here, and the link here is also, this is from Bucks Nation, which I believe is within the SB Nation family of sites. But essentially, teams could lose $70 million in next year's salary cap. So that could be very detrimental to a lot of teams. And the Bengals have been very good about always remaining under the cap, not really being in salary cap hell like a lot of other teams that you see. However, they did spend a lot of money this year and will have some expensive contracts continuing to be on the books in the form of a Trey Waynes and a DJ Reader. So if you lose $70 million in cap, that's going to have an impact, particularly in these small to mid-market teams like a Cincinnati Bengals. So that's not great news for NFL teams. We'll see what happens, and if that could be a posturing thing by the Players Association, we don't know. But obviously, as we all know, the coronavirus has touched every aspect of life, professionally speaking, personally speaking, financially speaking. It really has touched everything. So this is no exception. Some other NFL news, like I mentioned, training camps are set to open, but we have no real grasp as to what the preseason will look like. We've heard that, players have always tried to get less preseason games in general, and the owners want them not only for potential revenue streams, which who knows what that would look like right now, but potential revenue streams for ticket sales and whatnot. But also the coaches want it because these guys need, even if it's for a quarter, a half, however long they play, they need these tune-ups. They need these types of game scenarios, especially with a team like, I think it's especially critical for a team like the Cincinnati Bengals, who have a young roster and young players at a lot of important positions and new players at a lot of important positions, because they really wanted to turn this roster over from being a 2-14 team last year. They really want to have a new look all over the field. So in order to really capitalize on that, you would think that the coaches would really push for at least one or two preseason games. At this point, we don't really know fully exactly what that's going to look like. I see here, I am JL in our live YouTube chat said, just heard that the NFL offered the Players Association one preseason game instead of the two. I had heard something similar about that, but this stuff changes by the minute, hour, day, and week. So we'll have to see exactly what comes of that. But as of now, there is no set preseason game. Unfortunately, the Cincinnati Bengals had a nationally televised, which would have been really exciting, a nationally televised preseason game set up that has since been canceled, at least from a national televised standpoint. They may still play the game depending on what the preseason schedule looks like, but based on what's looking like a reduced amount of games, based on what's looking like just less coverage, I guess, of the preseason. That decision was made, and so we won't be getting a national TV look at the Bengals in preseason. But, if they do play 1 game, 2 games, however it may be, I'm sure there is going to be some coverage available for teams. But I understand the need for safety. I understand the need for, and by safety, I mean player safety and fan safety, coach safety, everybody involved, whether it's the COVID-19 or obviously on field and not getting hurt in meaningless preseason games. But a lot of people call them meaningless. I do think that they do have some meaning, especially for coaches that are trying to install new things. If they have a roster that's got a lot of new players, like the Cincinnati Bengals, I think there is some value in playing at least 1, maybe 2 preseason games, getting guys in quote-unquote game shape, getting guys used to the flow of the game, especially rookies, and the speed of the game. I think there's value in it, but we'll see what happens. Obviously, everybody has to be safe, and everyone has to feel comfortable with how that's going to look. We're going to get out of here. I've shared quite a bit of Bengals news and NFL news. We're going to continue to do these on Monday mornings just to get you primed up for the week. The Bengals players, as I mentioned, are getting set to really arrive at Paul Brown Stadium the middle of this week, and then obviously training camp will be ensuing from there, we think. So that's what's coming up over the next couple of days. There's going to be a lot more news, notes, quotes, all that good stuff. Keep it to cincyjungle.com for that. Keep it to our podcast, not only for this week start news dump, for, I guess, a lack of better words, but also our main show on Wednesday nights and our listener questions live that we'll be doing on Friday to get you prepped for the weekend too. All of our stuff can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, Megaphone, iHeartRadio. It can be found on our YouTube channel, which you can subscribe. I believe the button is right about there. So click that button to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Or all of the stuff is on cincyjungle.com. It's Facebook account as well, so join us how you can there. There's also a slate of a number of different Bengals podcasts that are part of the Cincy Jungle podcast channel. Orange is the New Black by Ace and Zim. You've got Sorry If I Spit When I Speak by Daddy-O and Hoji. And John Sheeran, my co-host, also gets featured on there as well. And then you've got Chalk Talk by Matt Minnick, who does videos for our Orange and Black Insider Bengals podcast channel, as well as a number of different things for Cincy Jungle and his own audio podcast. So check out all the material. We appreciate the support of not only this show, but all of the shows in the podcast channel. Have a great rest of your week. It's just getting started. We'll see you next time.